All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I live on the internet now. I guess I keep introducing these shows as if like people should expect me to be anywhere else but on Zoom. But because I used to do these interviews where I'd be at people's houses or jam spaces or whatever. But this is how it is now, and I guess I just have to accept it and stop introducing the show as if I should be somewhere else. So here I am, internet again, as always, and I'm here with two members of a band that has not been on the show before, which is cool because I've been doing this for 8 years now, which is a long time to do a podcast. And over the course of that, I've definitely been introduced to a lot of music that's new to me, but I've also had a lot of the same people coming back, over and over again when they have new albums or big things to talk about. So you're both new on the show. I think the best way to start this off is if you want to introduce yourselves and what you do in the band, and then we can just sort of get into talking about what you guys are all about musically.
Okay. Well, my name is Emma Murphy, and I'm, I guess, the front woman of the bands. I do lead vocals and I do some guitar and piano here and there.
Okay.
And I write usually all the lyrics, but Shelly does some lyrics as well. So
cool.
I'm Chelly, and like Emma said, I sometimes I help out with the lyrics, but not too much. Maybe in a few songs here and there. And then I'm the bassist. I also play guitar in the band, and then sometimes I do some vocals as well, just to back up Emma a little bit.
Okay.
And yeah, that's about it for what I do.
And
By the way, 8 years is a long time.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, I didn't expect it to last this long, but I do these twice a week now, and I'm kind of gonna do it forever at this point. I think I'm stuck in, and now I just do it almost out of habit. It's like, okay, who am I interviewing this week? And it just turns out. So
that's awesome. You're just so used to it, eh?
I think so. Yeah, it's like muscle memory at this point, I guess. But
so
who are we missing here? Like, I know there's a couple other members of the band who aren't here today. So who else is in the group?
we're missing our guitarist, our main guitarist, Ian Tata, and then our drummer, Cody Kennard.
Cool.
So
okay.
Those two, yeah.
So
Cody's usually missing in things like this. Ian sometimes shows up, but like I said, I don't know where he's at today.
So are you two sort of the main spokespeople for the band at this point, or?
Yeah, we get everything done.
Yeah.
Paperwork wise and
yeah,
social media wise and stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool. Well, when I was, before we did this call, I was thinking about, where I first heard of your band, because you're new to me, but I've definitely heard the name, and I've seen you pop up on social media, and I've seen clips of videos you posted on Instagram and stuff like that. And I think that you first came up like in my sort of orbit when every few months I post a thing on my social media saying like, who should I have on the show? What bands am I missing? Who have I not talked to yet? Who would people like to hear? And you guys have come up a few times actually, like from people whose opinions I really respect. So I was like, okay, I should really look into this. And so you were on my mental list of people to reach out to. And then I didn't, because I just had too much other stuff going on. And then the House of Wonders thing happened. And, I've done a whole episode about the label. So I got the email saying, hey, do you want to talk to this band? I was like, oh yeah, that band. Yes, I do. I do want to talk to them. I remember that they were on my mental list. So I'm glad we can make this happen. And it's very cool that you're putting on a tape on that label, because, they're doing really cool things. So maybe that's a good place to kind of start talking about what it is you do, because I feel like that label is new enough that it hasn't necessarily established a specific sound, but it also kind of has. Like there's definitely a vibe I get from the artists that work with that label. And I don't know if you feel that you kind of fit in well with that, or how did that even get hooked up?
Well, first of all, I just want to mention that I did see those posts. You'd be like, okay, who should I have next on the show? And I definitely did see a lot of people type in Julien Star. And I was like, okay, he's going to reach out to us soon. I
was going to. I don't need you now, though. It's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, but Emma, do you what vibe do you think House of Wonders? I think we do fit into that vibe. The other guy that's signed on the label right now, Amos the Kid.
Yeah.
We're both. I feel like we are like all really laid back, really chill, like quirky people, and I think Emma, what do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously every band has a story, but I thought it was really interesting how we had such an interesting story with being Kijiji based. Like we were all made.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
And then Amos the Kid, like he's really into like going in the forest, and so Adam would constantly be like, yeah, I'd have to like drag him into the studio. And so I just think having that really like genuine backstory is interesting. The only other people I think that are signed to the label is Virgo Rising. I think they were signed, but so I'm not too sure about them yet. I haven't met them or anything, but we have hung out with Amos at a few music gigs, and
Cool.
yeah, he's a
Amos
very
is such a
genuine
great,
guy.
he's a
Yeah,
great
his
guy.
record is really good too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So the Kijiji thing, I was going to bring it up later, but this is maybe a good segue into that. Like, I've actually heard of a lot of bands now doing things like that, where they're finding members online. And like, I haven't been in a band in over a decade. And when I first started playing in bands, that didn't the internet didn't even exist, like as we know it now, right? So
Yeah.
the idea of going to Kijiji to find band members is just so bizarre to me, but it obviously works. Like, a lot of people are doing it, and a lot of successful bands have done it. So what's the reason for using that as a way to find band members? Because in my experience, again, I'm old and I do things differently, but like, it was just, you find people who play in other bands, and you just sort of meet them, and it's like, oh, hey, let's start this project, and that's just sort of how it happens, right? But what was kind of the genesis of this group then?
Well, when I first made the ads, I was just graduating high school, so
Okay.
I really didn't know anybody in the music scene. So I think I took that Kijiji route because I didn't need them to be my age. Like, I didn't have to make a band out of who's graduating in my 2020 class. I
Sure.
wanted to get those more experienced players. So now, I mean, by doing that Kijiji ad, I mean, Cody's like 27 and Chelly's 22, 23, and Ian's my age. So,
Right.
so I think being able to reach like that not older generation, but like older ages, right? Like, I wouldn't see in high school.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anybody in the scene, so it's not like I know a few music buddies, I could make a band. Like, I had to just put myself out there and be like, hey, like, I need to find brand new people, pretty much, that I've never met ever. And
Yeah. How quickly did that happen? I mean, did you have to go through like a whole bunch of auditions with people before you found the group that fit, or was it pretty instant?
We went through a lot of people.
Yeah.
there was a lot of different lineups, and a lot of them, they left the band, but they were still really cool people. It was just like, oh, you live an hour and a half out of the city, we can't keep busing with our guitars to your house every week, right?
Yeah.
Like, the convenience of that. So some people were in our band for like an hour, and then they weren't in it. Some people were in there for a few practices. We definitely got a lot of messages from many different age groups, and we wanted to keep it around 18 to 24-ish because we wanted to be able to play bars, but we didn't want too old because, I mean, I don't know, it would just be a strange dynamic, I guess. But Shelly, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna add that a lot of it also was just the how we mended with each other. For example, when Emma and I first met, I tell everyone this, Emma and I clicked like right off the bat.
Okay.
We clicked on, music, similar interests, and then just our personalities. We've like flowed really well. So she and I were the ones that actually, from all those lineups, both of us then went and found Ian and Cody.
Okay.
So it was both of us together. But and then Ian, flows with us well. Cody flows with us well. We all it kind of just worked out so well that we all became like really close knit, and we were all able to become friends, first, and then do the music stuff. So it really worked out well in that sense.
Did you have any like real weirdos? Because I always worry about that with anything like, you're buying or advertising anything online. I just assume everyone's an axe murderer, and like even buying like a couch or something off Kijiji, I'm just terrified that they're gonna I'm gonna end up dead. I need to make sure I leave at least 5 notes to family and friends about where I've been. So did you get any? I mean, not murderers obviously, but
Okay,
Sam,
we gotta be careful.
You actually no.
We gotta be careful.
I will. Well, Sam, you actually did a perfect segue into where our band name originated.
Okay, good. I was gonna ask about that too, yeah.
So it was this one day where Chelly, me, and this other guy were in the band. So a guy wasn't in our like lineup now.
Okay.
We were in the band with someone else before. So we were still looking for a drummer at this time. And this was probably back in like March of 2019 or so. And we had received these 2 responses from 2 different drummers on Kijiji, and they didn't really have that much information on each person's account, except that one person had their age set as like 21 or so, I think, right, Shelly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, did it not have an age?
Yeah.
It didn't have an age. So we were like, well, no, like this person who doesn't have any info, like, no,
Yeah.
possible serial killer. So we texted this 21, 22-year-old guy, and we're like, hey, like, do you live around here? Like, you could come by and meet us. Like, I think we were just a bit too laid back with meeting people, because like I would go meet people by myself too without knowing anything about these people. And so anyways, this guy's like, oh yeah, like I'm right nearby you. And we're like, oh, so we go outside of our guitarist's apartment at the time, and we're looking around for him, and we're calling his name, and his name is Julien.
Okay.
And we're like, Julien, and we're looking for this guy. And all of a sudden, this very like husky man, very tall, just approaches around the corner, and he's just holding a Telecaster guitar, like no case.
Like no case, yeah.
He's just walking with the guitar, and he's intimidating, right? Because like, I'm just like, what? Like, I'm pretty young still. Like, I was still in high school in grade 12. And we're just like so confused because this guy's like obviously not 22, or he's not aged well.
Yeah.
And so we walk up to him, and I'm like shaking his hand because I just assume everyone's really cool and stuff. And they're all like, why are you shaking his hand? Like, no, we have to, and this is really uncomfortable. And we invite him up to the apartment.
That seems like a bad choice, like right away.
Shelly, do you want to continue it?
Yeah, because every time we tell a story, you have to remember to be careful about how we talk about this person, because
he's still out there.
Yeah, and we're sure he's a great guy, but he just didn't fit into it. But anyway, we invited him up, and we were talking, and it was really awkward conversation. He was telling us about what he does. He sold Pokemon cards, and he had 2 kids, and he had this huge drum or jam space where he had his drums at home. And anyway, we didn't really like the conversation. We knew it wasn't gonna work. Yeah. So we were kind of just trying to, end it all, wrap it up, and then, let him leave. So then after he left, we were kind of just talking, we were laughing with each other about how bad that was, how awkward it was. And then he had mentioned he had 2 kids, and one was a girl. And we were
one of them was like my age. Like this man was like over 30 years old. I think he was 36, and his daughter was like 17.
That's a young dad.
Yeah, I was like, but it was like weird, right?
Yeah.
So okay, Chelly.
And then we were kind of just talking. We were like, oh, it's too bad Julian's daughter doesn't play the drums or play the guitar or something like that. And that name kind of stood out to us. And I don't know, we had different names. Lock it in. We had horrible names before that. So yeah.
The chairs.
The chairs.
Pick that one
brutal.
out.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Julian's daughter.
Have you heard from Julien at all since this? So, like, has this guy ever popped up on your radars again?
No. I mean, we could probably still contact him because we still have like his Kijiji conversation open. I never even thought about that until now. Like, but
just reach out to see how he's doing.
Yeah.
He'd probably want money.
Tell him he found a drummer. Yeah, he probably would. He wanted the copyright or something on the name. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's a good way to get a name, I guess, though, out of like some weird guy that you met on the internet.
Yeah, audition mishap.
It's an interesting story.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess, like, just to go back to that Kijiji thing, what kind of meshed with the group that you ended up putting together? I mean, were there sort of musical interests in common? Or I know you mentioned earlier that you all kind of got along well as friends first, but in terms of the actual sound of the band, did you all sort of have similar record collections, or what was the kind of key there?
I mean, we all have similar but not similar taste in music. Okay. Like, for instance, Ian, he's into metal, and I'm not really into metal, but I have an appreciation for his interest in metal. And so we all respected each other's music tastes, and we wanted to acknowledge them all into what music we wanted to make. We wanted to touch in with all of them. Okay. But as Chili said, like, we just became friends off the bat. And as Chili always says in past interviews, like, the people who stuck around were the people that were like most enthusiastic to be there and most comfortable. And, when we went to meet people like at Polo Park, to see if they would be in the band, like, they were all so awkward. And I obviously understand why, but all of us, when we met, we weren't ever awkward. It was just instant comfort. And it was like we knew each other. It felt like I'd known Chelly for years and years and years. Cool. And so yeah.
So,
Shelly?
well, how long has this been a unit then? How long has it been since you had the kind of lineup without the Julians in it?
Um, well,
2 years?
Two
we
years?
were 2 years.
Would it be?
Wait, well, Shelly was in another band at the time,
Okay.
and they were performing and stuff like that still. And so it was just Ian, Cody, and I. And then once his band Arenas kind of
Oh, I remember that band. Yeah, yeah.
cut out of it, cut out of the scene, he was like, oh, well, like, yeah, I could try being a part of your band again.
Cool,
And
cool.
so, I mean, we only started gigging in January of this year. So I would say probably September, October of 2019, we really started like getting the music together, I think.
Okay. So you haven't had much time being a band before the pandemic started, I guess, right? I mean, like, I guess a big chunk of that time that you've existed has been during this shit.
Yeah, but before COVID hit, it was so intense. Like
Yeah.
it was like show, show, show. We got into a summer festival. It obviously got canceled,
Sure.
but like we were gonna record our first EP in March after only a few months,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
and then it was like a week before we went to the studio, the pandemic hit. So, but it honestly happened for the best because then the House of Wonder stuff happened, right? So
Yeah. So how did that come together? Like, did they approach you, or were you looking for a label for your stuff, or what went on there?
We were just chilling, and we just got a message one day from House of Wonders, from Adam at
Yeah.
House of Wonders, and he told us he's heard about us and he'd love to try to work something out.
Cool.
And at the time, we weren't really. What were we planning then, Emma? I think we were planning on going into UMFM or something like that to
yeah,
record,
we
and then
I mean, I was out in Lockport at like
Okay.
a Half Moon Drive-In, and I get this message from House of Wonders, and I'm eating like a veggie dog, and it's like falling out of my mouth as I'm reading this message of this guy who loves our band and wants to potentially sign us and work with us. And
Yeah.
what had actually happened was he had reached out weeks prior, and the email had went to my junk folder, so like I never saw it. And so like thank God he
You followed up.
followed
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I just remember calling Chelly and we were just freaking out, and I was like, oh my God, like never in my wildest dreams did I think we'd be signed to a label within a year of being an active band.
Yeah,
and
it's cool.
it was especially crazy because I knew Adam from his band Yes We Mystic,
Yeah.
and when I saw that it was the same guy, I flipped out. When we first had our first Zoom call with Adam, I was like visibly like freaking out because it was the guy from Yes We Mystic, the singer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
Well, I guess too, you have the benefit of being in on this label when it's first starting out as well. So like you can kind of, I mean, you're in on the ground floor, right? I mean, there's obviously, I'm sure they'll be signing a lot more bands locally and otherwise in the future. And you are kind of like, you're there at the beginning to sort of help form the sound of what the label actually is going to be. So that's a cool place to be, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Same here.
So you're putting out a tape and that's not coming out till next year, early next year. Is that right?
January, yeah.
January. Okay. So when was that actually recorded?
So one of the songs, the Barb 217 one that was released a few weeks ago, that was done at House of Wonders with
Okay.
Adam. But then the other 5 songs were done at Collector Studios,
Okay.
which is another place in Winnipeg. Wait, what was the question?
When were they recorded?
Oh,
That's information. The information you just gave me is useful too, though. So.
I forgot. I think it was August.
Okay.
Yeah.
August through September. It was kind of sporadic, but we got it all done.
Mhm.
And yeah. Kelly, I keep getting like confused.
No, it's cool. It's cool. How has this pandemic affected you in terms of being able to even do that? Because like obviously everyone has been affected in some way or another, and a lot of bands I've talked to over the 6-7 months of this have not even been able to see each other in person, right? They've been like, they can't rehearse, they can't record. How did you make that kind of stuff work?
Well, we've performed quite a bit, honestly, and
Yeah.
people are surprised to hear that, but there was that hot minute in Winnipeg where gigs were happening, and it was
For like 3 weeks.
hot minute and a short minute.
Yeah.
I mean, we started getting back together in, when would you say, Chelly? Like June?
It was a few weeks after the the first lockdown happened.
No, not a few weeks after that. It was months. Like we probably got back together in June.
Yeah, maybe.
The concept of time is crazy. No, it was definitely a few months. It was not a few weeks. We started doing practices probably in June, and then we got offered to play Burning Couch Festival.
Okay, cool.
Which was supposed to happen in July, but then it got postponed to August. And then early August was when the House of Wonder stuff started happening.
Right.
And then we played New Music Night for Manitoba Music in September, and then we played the Pyramid, and there's one other gig, but I cannot remember.
That's a lot. That's more than most bands have played, I think, during that.
I know.
That
most bands haven't even gotten together at all, and I was
they
like,
haven't,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that you'll be able to do that. I mean, I guess hopefully that means that when things eventually get back to some kind of normal, you'll have had, you'll be more refined with your chops than everyone else because everyone else has been sitting there in, different houses playing by themselves, I guess, waiting for a chance to jam, right?
Yeah.
The funny thing is, since we recorded, we haven't gotten together. Since after we recorded everything, we haven't seen each other since then. We kind of just took a break because there was that span of time where we, venues opened up again. And like Emma said, we had like 3 shows back to back during that short time. And then after that stopped, we then went to record, and then we were like, okay, we're going to take a break. And we haven't done anything since then.
We've just been Zoom calling and stuff like that.
Yeah. Staying in touch, I guess, right? And like, you got to keep some kind of contact, I guess, to make it happen. Yeah.
And like, we don't have to be together, really. Like if we write music, we just send each other stuff with GarageBand, and then we write songs that way. Like with recording, we had to all be there. But yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense for sure. So I hate asking this question, and everyone hates answering it, but if you have to define what type of music you play, what's the easiest kind of Cole's Notes quick version you tell people? Because, and the reason it's a shitty question is because, everyone's got this like subgenre of subgenre of subgenre, and everything's a post this or core that or whatever. And like, it's pretty much impossible to just say, we play this these days. But if someone, that you run into for the first time in 5 years, oh, hey, you're in a band, what kind of music do you play? Do you have an easy answer for that?
I mean, we probably have different ones. You can go first, Charlie.
Post this, core that. We're post-core indie rock. No.
Right.
We like to just say we're indie rock.
Okay.
We've been called a lot of things. We've been called indie pop or something like that. Pop rock, and Emma really hates that. But we like to just indie rock, and that's it. Yeah. I
would say basement rock. I think the basement word is just super important with our band, just because. I mean, I'm sure lots of bands play in basements like us.
I think most do, yeah.
But or attics, I don't know. But
right.
I just find like, ever since we put like our basement demos out on Bandcamp, and just how lo-fi basement-y it sounds, and I think just our aesthetic is just very. It almost like gives me that like high school vibe, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like a high school band that gets together and plays all these like underground shows. Like that's how I've always pictured us, even though some of us are like 27 and stuff like that. But I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds like almost the DIY punk rock aesthetic, but you're not playing punk rock music.
Yeah, like it's not super produced, like in our songs that we're putting out on this EP, they're not so put together that it's like this perfect vocal track and perfect guitar track. There's little mishaps in there. There's pitchiness and whatever, because I just find it's basement rock. Like it's rough, it's raw. It's not this polished sound, and that's what I've always just identified it with. But again, we could all view it differently.
Do you think that people do you think that's something that people grasp onto with your sound? Is that kind of genuineness of it, where it's not overproduced, and that those kind of small mistakes kind of do come through? Because I think that definitely is an appeal for a lot of music. I like a lot of stuff like that too, where it's not too perfect. Like when you can hear the kind of the cracks in it, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. These are real people playing a real song and actually putting something into it, rather than this is done 700 times in the studio and perfected to the point where it's it's too clean, right?
Right. Well, like for instance, we have a song called Wellington, and it's not out yet. It's coming out in January with the whole EP. But I listened back to some of these tracks, and I wasn't sure if I was experiencing like just a typical musician anxiety where you just overanalyze your work till like you find every fault within it.
Sure.
But I would just listen to these tracks and I'd be like, man, like I could have done that so much better. You know, wow, that was the worst vocal take I could have done that they used. But then the more I listened to it, I was like, it's not perfect, but it has the emotion that I was trying to get across. You know, like this song Wellington, it's about, you know, having a conversation with someone and both of you aren't listening. And so the way I was singing it, it wasn't the best take I could have done, but it was the most raw and the most genuine, if that made sense. So that's how I always trace it back to the basement, because it's not this like, you know, okay, we're going to take the best take and that guitar was a bit too, there's too much feedback there, so not use that take, like we just use it, you know. So I don't know what Chelly thinks about that, but that's how I've always, as my own part in the band, seen it all.
Just to try to go off of your question, Sam, I think people do, and I say this because we've gotten so many of the same comparisons from our band, and I think like one comparison we get all the time is Bjork.
Okay.
And like we don't know why, because we don't really know Bjork that well.
Right.
But everyone always compares to Bjork. So I think people get that, they get one kind of feeling from our sound, and you know, whatever that feeling is, we're not quite sure, but we think like we resonate like one type of genuine like feeling, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, as long as you're resonating something, right? That's what you want to do. That's kind of the goal, right? Is you want to have some kind of something coming across to people that they can log into, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So you're putting on a tape. This is very exciting for me as an old person who never stopped listening to tapes, and I'm really happy to see this kind of renaissance happening of cassettes, because like I still have my tapes from when I was a teenager, like, you know, in the 90s and stuff, and I'm always happy to see local bands doing it, and it's happening more often. There's more tape labels and stuff. Was this a choice that you guys would have done if you hadn't worked with that label that's putting out tapes, or did you want to put it a cassette kind of from the get-go?
I think that's a no. We wouldn't have.
No, I think it was all Adam.
Yeah, because he's really into putting out tapes, which is cool.
He is. Yes. And one of our members, Ian, is really into cassette collecting and stuff like that. And so obviously we all had the appreciation for doing this with Adam, but I honestly didn't think that cassettes were very popular. Like I thought CDs were more popular. So when we first had the initial Zoom meeting with Adam about all this stuff, I was like, yeah, so how many CDs are we gonna make? And he was like, CDs? And I'm like, cassettes? What? And he was like, no, we're gonna go with cassettes. And I was like, okay, like I trust you, and if you think that there's an audience for this and stuff like that. And but we would not have done that if we wouldn't have been with a label, for sure.
Well, maybe this leads to another question then, is because, you know, we're in a time right now where you can put out a cassette, or you can put out an LP, or you can put out a CD, or you can go strictly digital, and there's like not any right or wrong way to release music. There's just so many different options, right? So I mean, what is kind of the way that the two of you consume music? Because like I'm 38, I'm quite a bit older than you, and like I listen to tapes and CDs and records, and it's all physical stuff. I never got into the Spotify and all those things. I barely know how they work. I don't want to know how they work. I'm stubborn and set in my ways, but I realize that that's not very realistic to assume everyone does that, because I know, I mean, you know, most people I know don't have physical stuff anymore, or have a very small amount, or they're just doing vinyl or whatever. So what kind of is the main way that the two of you listen to music, and how has that sort of affected what you've wanted to do with this band? Because there's different, I think, benefits and drawbacks to every format, right?
I think that we would say like mainly just because of our generation, is non-physical stuff, is Spotify, is Apple Music, you know, SoundCloud. And I think because of that, we've like from the get-go, we were worried about, you know, what are we going to do on our Spotify? Are we going to have a canvas? Are we going to, you know, how many songs are we going to put out on our Spotify or Apple Music? Spotify more than Apple Music, because Spotify is better. I know you don't know much, but Spotify is better than Apple Music. Just keep that. But that's what we've been mainly worried about. The tapes and stuff, like we said, Ian, our guitarist, he collects cassette tapes all the time. So I'm sure he has. He's younger than me. He's Emma's age, right?
Okay.
I think he's about 18 or 19, and he collects those tapes. So I think he'll still find those people that'll, you know, want to collect the physical stuff, you know, CDs. That's why we kind of thought about making CDs, or, you know, we were very okay with doing cassette tapes. So, but yeah, just my background, definitely. I like having not having to carry around physical stuff.
Right, right.
So I like my access to Spotify and Apple Music, and yeah.
Well, it sucks if you have to move. If you ever have to move with a large record collection, it's like the worst.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You gotta pack up all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not
But
leaving this house ever because it's all like shelves and shelves of this shit, and I don't want to ever have to move it. So I get the convenience of it for sure.
Yeah, but it's definitely still always cool to have vinyl though, or vinyl especially. Like I want to eventually be able to, you know, say, yeah, like I have a bunch of vinyl at home and I have a, you know, a player for it.
Yeah.
But so that stuff is definitely still like it's very retro, it's very cool, I think, from my point of view.
Cool.
Well, for me, like my dad, he has hundreds of vinyl records, and so I guess they're my vinyl records, like we both live there, so they're mine. I guess I inherited them. But I grew up with tons of CDs, like going to HMV, which was now turned into Sunrise Records. Just always, like, even if I obviously have Spotify, you know, if I'm gonna go running, I'm not gonna have a CD deck or a cassette deck or something attached to my waist. But I'm sure you do. I don't know.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Yeah.
But yeah, like obviously for doing homework or going for walks, I use Spotify, but I've had tons of CDs, and I would buy the CD of the album, the vinyl of the album. I never got into cassettes, but because I never had anything to play them.
Right, it makes sense, yeah.
But definitely vinyl. I have lots of up-to-date vinyl of all my favorite bands, and then I have all my dad's older stuff, which I have a huge appreciation for as well. So, but CDs were my main thing, so I was surprised that Adam was so confused about that, because I thought CDs were more popular than cassettes. But
well, I think CDs, I have like 1,500 CDs. Like I still listen to CDs all the time, but I think that maybe they have a stigma in that, like, they're not as convenient as Spotify or any of that stuff, and they don't have any kind of retro appeal at all. Like, I think a lot of younger people, and I may be wrong, but are getting into vinyl and even tapes because it's this thing they didn't grow up with, and it's like, oh, this is available now again. I want to kind of listen to music in that old sort of way. But CDs, they were around for, they kind of scrapped in favor of all this streaming stuff. So it's like, why would I want to see that? That's what I think it probably is. I'm not sure, but it's kind of, I still like them, but yeah, CDs are definitely not as cool as tapes and vinyl, it seems to be.
Yes, I would definitely agree. Vinyl is probably the coolest thing as if you want to be retro, if you want to be hipster, you get vinyl. Also, it also helps to, like, I was thinking about this while Emma was talking, like, if you're you know, a super fan of a band and you're like, oh yeah, I have all their stuff on Spotify, it doesn't sound as cool as, oh yeah, I have all their vinyl, I have all their you know, shirts, all their CDs.
Yeah. And I have like a bunch of signed vinyl and signed CDs, you know. No one's gonna sign my Spotify, like, that makes no sense, right? So
right
it's definitely cool to like frame the albums and stuff like that. And
I have a framed album in my house from when I interviewed Fred Penner. It's like one of his old records from when I was a kid, and it's like the Fred Penner album.
You don't know who that is.
You don't know who that is? Oh, he's a children's entertainer from like the 80s, and anyway, very famous Winnipeg children's entertainer who's been around for 50 years. But anyway, sorry.
No worries.
But, no, the reason I like to ask that question is because, like I said, I've had people on the show like from age 18 to 70, right? And I mean, there's not a standard anymore. When I was growing up, there was either everyone was doing tapes, and then suddenly CDs came in as everyone was doing CDs, and then it slowly become this weird Wild West where you can really choose. Even with streaming, there's like 6 or 7 different options, right? So it's this really bizarre kind of world where no one is necessarily, first of all, listening to the same music, because I don't think the mainstream music radio anyway is as prevalent as it used to be, because everyone can do Spotify and they can kind of customize everything, right, for themselves. And then there's no sort of one format that everyone's doing. So it's such a weird world to live in where you have access to everything, but you can't assume that the next person sitting next to you has kind of, experienced music in the same way.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's kind of like throwing fishing line out in the dark. You're just trying something, like from band to band. One band might focus on Spotify, one band might focus on that vinyl.
Totally.
But I think it's like the best to just try everything. Put everything out there, because you'll reach someone like that.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe just before we wrap this up, maybe that's a good question to lead into is because of the internet, which is like really great for music in the sense that there's so much available and you can find anything you want from any era. But how do you make yourselves heard? I mean, there's millions and millions of bands starting up every week. They're all trying to fight for the same basically internet space, right? Everyone's put the other stuff on Spotify. They got it on Bandcamp. They got it on YouTube, whatever. Like, how do you kind of get yourselves out there in a world where everyone and their dog, and some of those bands are terrible, but maybe they're good at marketing themselves. Like, how do you get yourself ahead above the rest in terms of getting your music heard?
Well, a huge aspect of why we've been so well known, I guess, in Winnipeg is just other bands in Winnipeg.
Okay.
Like, everyone supports each other, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I have I've had past connections with some musicians that have become very popular, like Taylor Jansen.
Okay.
Like, we used to do open mics together when I was only 16, doing them at the Handsome Daughter, and she was 2 or 3 years older than me.
Okay.
So I had that initial interaction with her, and so when she started following us, then she would promote us, and then everyone that she knows from Toronto, like Begonia and everyone, they would see us, and like, so it starts to, like, if you make good relationships with people and make good impressions, and anyone you play a gig with, we're always opening for people, but or if we're headlining, like, you always want to have the good relationship, genuine, never be mean or dismissive to anyone, and then they pass you on and you pass them on, and it's all this, like, supporting local people, and then hopefully you get out of being local, and blow up somewhere.
Well, I'm glad to hear that I've heard this a lot, but, because like I said, it's been a long time since I played in bands, but, when I started playing in bands when I was a teenager, and this is like back to the mid 90s, a lot of the people that I played in bands with then, or I played shows with their bands or whatever, they're still my friends now, like, 20 years later. And I think that one of the best things about the local music scene is it was so inclusive and it was so welcoming. Whatever weird music someone was trying to do, the other bands would be encouraging it. They'd be buying your merch, or they'd be like, going to your shows even if they weren't playing and stuff like that. And it's always comforting to hear that that's still the case in Winnipeg, because I think that, I don't know if every city has that. I don't know if everyone has the kind of really tight-knit music scene that we do. And it's so tight-knit that it's often incestuous, where everyone's in each other's bands, and people are trading members constantly. But I think that just strengthens it, right? And it's like this weird, welcoming little circle of people. And once you're in, you're kind of in. And I'm glad to hear it's still going that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to be in a band and then go and see other bands, because it's like, oh, there's Julien's Daughter,
right?
And like, oh, there's House Panther, and there's Kid. Like, it's because Winnipeg's so small, like, you all run into each other at gigs, like before COVID and stuff like that, and it's like you just see each other, and you know that you love each other, and you've bought their merch and they bought yours, and you've played a show with them, and
it's cool. It's
crazy
cool
family. It's a crazy Winnipeg family.
Yeah, big city with big music scene, but like small music scene too. Everyone knows each other for sure.
Yeah,
exactly.
Very cool. So if people are hearing you for the first time on the show, or they want to check out your music, and they have seen you before or whatever, what's the best way for them to hear you and find out what you're up to? I mean, COVID's hopefully not going to last forever. Podcasts kind of live on the internet forever, so someone could hear this 6 months from now, or even a year from now or something, and hopefully you're playing shows again, right? So what's the best option to track you down?
Check us out on Instagram at Julien's Daughter. And then hopefully from our Instagram, you'll get linked to the House of Wonders, because that's what we have in our bio right now, our House of Wonders page. And then from our House of Wonders page, you can find everything. You can find our Instagram, our Facebook, our email if you want to shoot us an email.
Cool.
And then there's also a
Spotify.
link tree. Oh,
cool.
Why didn't I've been talking all this stuff about Spotify and then I don't mention it.
That's
Spotify. We're on Spotify. Julien's Daughter. We'll have another single coming out really soon, and then the EP in January.
Cool.
And did I miss anything? We're on SoundCloud. We're on YouTube. Look us up anywhere. You'll find. Look us up on Google. You'll find us.
Right.
Definitely, we'll pop up.
Or you'll find that Julien guy and his actual daughter, and then
You'll find Julien's Facebook page.
Yeah. So right now, though, like at the time we're recording this, you have the one single out from the tape that's coming out. And what else do you have online? Is there any other stuff that people could find right now if they want to hear?
Well, so I host a radio show at UMFM, like 101.5. So last November we did a live session there.
Right on, yeah.
So people actually, it's so strange. People have been reaching out to me or to the band saying like, "Oh my God, I like just saw your live session." It's like, why, like, what's all this like hype on our live session? Like, no one saw it for months and months and months.
Right.
And now in the last few weeks, it's like, "Oh my God, saw your live session." It's like, what? I forgot.
People are home and they're bored. They're looking
I
stuff up.
guess.
Exactly.
But it was really cool because it was the first time they could do like a 360
Oh yeah.
degree room. So that was pretty cool because that was the first thing we ever did as a band. Like we had never performed live, we'd never recorded anything like that. So we have that. We filmed a live rendition of Barb 217 in my living room
Okay.
quite a few months ago, and people have been checking that out. That's on YouTube.
Cool.
And I don't know if you noticed, we still have our SoundCloud up. It has all our well, we have Bandcamp. I'm talking about our Bandcamp doesn't have our demos on there. Our SoundCloud does though.
Okay.
Our SoundCloud still has our old demos
Okay.
and stuff. So if anyone wants to check out our demos, that's the only place. I'm pretty sure that's the only place they're on our old demos. But yeah, everything else is on Bandcamp.
Awesome.
Well, Barb, and then we have the single coming out in December, and then the EP in January.
Cool. Very cool. Well, yeah, I'm glad we could do this, and I'm looking forward to hearing the EP. I'm glad it's coming out on tape, like I said, and House of Wonders is doing cool stuff. So it's neat to see like where that label's going too, because Adam's obviously very passionate about what he's doing with the label, and I think he has. I get the idea anyway that he has kind of a vision for where he wants that stuff to go in terms of the sound and everything too. So it's cool to see that you're on board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.